Hi class, welcome to week 2 of EMDD 101. I'm going to post a short series of videos on design thinking this week. So this is part 1 on design thinking. So let's jump into design thinking. This module is called Thinking Like a Designer. I'm trying to make my face small, there we go. Thinking like a designer, because design thinking really is about ways of thinking. It's not necessarily a super rigid set of things that we have to do in order to design something. It does have some suggestions of what we should do, but it's really at its core about thinking like a designer. And that means that starting from understanding. When we're designing something that somebody is going to use, and we want to try to understand that person or that type of person and the environment and the context in which they are going to be using the thing we made. So design thinking is a way of making things that is powered by a thorough understanding through direct observation, actually observing and talking to and getting to know the people of what people want and need in their lives and what they like or dislike about the way particular products that they might already be using are made, packaged, marketed, sold, and supported. So really the key thing here is this basis of understanding the user. So starting with understanding the user from actually interacting with them and observing them in real life and knowing them and even inviting them to work with us as designers and work through the problems. So another definition of design thinking that kind of takes it out of this, lofty quote territory and puts it into a little bit more of a concrete way of thinking is just thinking of it as a framework. It's a framework or an approach to problem solving that uses direct observation to understand what people want and how they use the current systems where they're trying to get the thing they want out of. So solutions are found using trial and error. So there's really two parts to design thinking, and the Wicked Problems reading this week goes into that. There's the problem and then there's the solution. And the problem is experienced by real people and they're actually experiencing the problem. And the solution is something that we're inventing to try to solve the problem. So if we're going to start with a problem, we want to go observe the problem, see how it really works, watch the people who are experiencing it, actually experiencing it, and hearing their thoughts, feelings, ideas around what they're experiencing. And then the solution is where we bring in creativity and try to find a solution with trial and error. We try to get rid of the problem by creating a solution with trial and error, which means lots of rounds of trying things and putting them into that environment where the problem is happening and seeing if they solve the problem. So I cannot stress enough, the basis of design thinking is understanding the people who are using the problem or who are experiencing the problem and what the problem is, and then coming up with a solution and putting it into that experience and seeing if it solves the problem. So again, the target of design thinking is what we call wicked problems. So I think it's really important to point out that design thinking is all about solving problems that don't have a single correct solution, right? 2 plus 2 has a single correct solution. It's 4. It doesn't really matter what language you speak. If you are adding 2 and 2, the solution, the answer is 4. We might say the word 4 in different languages, but it's the language here of math is universal, and there's a correct solution to the problem of what is 2 plus 2. In design, with wicked problems, these are problems where there's no obvious single correct solution that everybody will agree on is the correct solution. So an example would be like reducing political division in America, right? There's many potential solutions. Some of those potential solutions might work out better than others. Some might be really great. Some might be really terrible. Some might be really, really great for certain people and not as great for other people. There's not a clear, obvious, like, okay, we did it. We solved political division, right? Some solutions are better than others, but there's no universally agreed upon correct solution that we can arrive at with a completely objective means like we can with the problem of 2 plus 2. So wicked problems are the target of design thinking. We use design thinking to try to solve problems with no objective, clear solution that we can arrive at with some sort of clear system or logic. So a few characteristics of design thinking. If you want to engage in design thinking, if you want to try to understand problems and then propose solutions and try those solutions out with the people who are experiencing the problem and see if it alleviates their problem, one of the most important things that we can have is empathy. And I feel like this is something that is really popular right now. It's something that everybody's kind of aware of. It wasn't true for the last 30 years of design. Talking about empathy 20 years ago was you would be introducing a word to people that they, hadn't heard so much of, hadn't thought so much of, but really understanding the world from multiple perspectives. And I think a big part of empathy in design is don't just empathize with others, involve them. Don't just try to understand their problems, talk to them. They can tell you their problems. They can express their problems. You can observe their problems, go with them to where the problem is being felt by them. This sort of direct, empathy is where we want to come from, but we're going to get that empathy by being directly involved, by being almost like a partner to the people who we are working with to try to solve this problem. Integrated thinking, another important characteristic that you need to have when you're employing design thinking, just approaching problems with various problem solving skills, being able to take lots of different pieces of information about lots of different things and kind of integrate them all together and go through the process of thinking of different potential solutions and, just taking all the information of the problem and the people who are experiencing it and trying to kind of bring that all together into a point of view and ideas for solutions. I love this one, optimism, understanding problems as opportunities for improvement, right? Anytime there's a problem, that's something that we can try to fix. And so being optimistic that if we try to solve the problem, we'll get somewhere as opposed to just not trying at all. And then last but not least, collaboration, knowing how to bring together multiple viewpoints and involve others. So design thinking, I like to call it in a lot of presentations I'll give or when I talk to other people at work about this, I like to also use the word participatory design to really emphasize that design thinking isn't something where we designers are the only people who know how to do it and we have this tool and we need to go do it at other people, right? It's all about collaboration, involving other people, going to the people who are experiencing the problem and offering our way of thinking and our help as support for those people, and not this idea that we're coming in to save the day because we understand design. It's all about being participatory, going in and using design to support the people who are solving the problem, to explore the problem and come up with solutions all together. A good example here is, this is sort of a classic example of design thinking, toothbrushes, right? When I was a kid, quite a while ago, kids' toothbrushes were just little miniature adult toothbrushes. So here we have a picture of that, right? If you design toothbrushes, you make the adult toothbrush, and then when you need a child version, you just shrink it down, and now it's for kids, right? Well, look at how this adult and this child are holding this toothbrush. You can see the adult is holding it a certain way, which is kind of probably how we all hold it. When you brush your teeth tonight, grab your toothbrush and then kind of look at how you're holding it. This is a helpful way to hold it, the adult on the left, but the child is just kind of holding it in this fist. Imagine holding a toothbrush in your fist. Again, try it tonight. Hold the toothbrush in your fist like this and try to brush your teeth and see how awkward that is. And so you can see the difference in how the adult holds it versus how the child holds it. And you can see another example here. In this picture, she can barely hold it. I don't know how she would really get any pressure to brush her teeth by holding the toothbrush at the very end. So the point here is that if we actually observe children brushing their teeth and holding a toothbrush, we notice that these adult-sized toothbrushes, when they're shrunken down, the children can't actually use them very well. It's difficult for them to hold, it's difficult for them to maneuver, and that's because little kids have smaller hands, that's true, so you would think you would just make a smaller toothbrush, but they actually don't have the dexterity that adults have. They're kids, they're learning, they are still understanding how to use their hands and how to manipulate objects in the world, and so it's harder for them to hold something in a certain way. And so toothbrush designers who actually observe users and go to where the problem is and watch little kids brush their teeth with little toothbrushes have found out that a better design is to have fat toothbrushes for kids. So instead of taking a toothbrush for an adult and shrinking it down, you do make it shorter, but you actually make it fatter. And that way, little kids can hold it more easily because it fits in their tiny hand and their dexterity doesn't have to be as good in order to hold the toothbrush. And you can actually see in these two pictures, the kids are now holding it like the adult was in this picture. So now they can hold it correctly now that it's larger and actually tailor-made for them. So just an example of how observation, going to where a problem is actually experienced and spending time with and learning from the people who are experiencing it is going to lead to potentially better solutions than just thinking that we know what would be a good idea and trying it, like, oh, let's just shrink the adult toothbrush. Well, it doesn't really work. We have to go find the people who are experiencing the problem and learn from them and work with them to develop the solutions. And you'll come out usually with a solution. This is what design thinking is positing, that if you do that, the solution will be better. Just like these little kids' toothbrushes with the fat handles are better, more easy to use for the kids than the sort of let's just guess and assume smaller toothbrushes would be better kind of approach.